So I just got done watching Torn Curtain, and honestly, I feel a little torn about how I feel if this one's like a good movie or if it's just acceptable, I guess. I don't know. I'll explain in a minute. Paul Newman and Julie Andrews star in this action-packed thriller about a world-famous scientist who goes undercover to get top-secret information and ends up running for his life from enemy agents. I hope I won't be the only common law wife at the convention, says Sarah Sherman, played by Julia Andrews, aka Mary Poppins herself. And yeah, and whatever Paul Newman is famous for, maybe brother Randy Newman, who knows. Reportedly, Universal Pictures executives convinced Hitchcock to drop Bernard Herrmann's score in favor of a more upbeat score. The director and his longtime film composer had a falling out over the issue and never worked together again. Gromek's murder scene was written to show how difficult it can be to bill a man. Jan Malmsjö, a Swedish actor who had a small uncredited role in the film, found that a lot of the signs used in the movie were not written in correct Swedish, so he helped the film crew correct them. Well, that's funny. And of course, got to go with the customary pre-Stanley cameo. He's in a hotel. So, I don't know. There's some good parts about this one, but overall, it just feels like it was like the pacing just felt all over the place. There are some scenes where there's a lot of bombast happening. Like there was for example, there was like a scene in like a college room where where they're performing some math problems, like writing it down, trying to figure out how get the formula for it to get this missile and not cause it to explode. And it's interesting to see them go back, erase work, do some formulas, and just have an interesting conversation about like this formula for like omega and x and things like that. And that was interesting and fun to see. There's also a suspenseful ride because they're trying to smuggle, because this organization is Pi. Yes, literally, how coincidental I watched this on Pi Day. You can't make this up. And it's like, hey, it's like first it's going to be a blockade. We have to present some papers or whatever. And then second, there's going to be some bandits who couldn't make it through Germany's like army program, so now they stop and demand money and stuff like that. And it was tense. That was a tense roughly 10 minutes. I mean, at the same time, there's just so much, I don't know, I guess I wouldn't want to say needless dialogue. It just felt like too much fluff. This movie is 2 hours and 8 minutes, and honestly, even Alfred Hitchcock himself said that this is one of his personal dislikings because, and I'll explain. Because when Newman came on, he was on the old sort of Jimmy Stewart or also of or Cary Grant, so he didn't understand. Like, hey, just leave it to Hitchcock and want to see more of the script. So those two kind of didn't really yell at each other, but made revisions here and there, and ultimately they respected each other. But it just, because there were so many it just felt like the script was rewritten so many times. Of like, hey, let's have a speech about him supposedly defecting from the U.S., but ultimately he's trying to help out, trying to help the good guys win. It's like, yeah, that's great and all, because yes, there's obviously some James Bond influence on here, but it just didn't feel too deep. It's like the plot was barely there, and I was like, I don't have a problem if there's some style, but it just, I don't know, it just dragged on. And it's like, it's like, hey, we're going to finally get off this bus. Oh, we're going to meet up with this Fraulein, who hopefully can get us a sponsorship. No, I'm sorry, what is she? It's like a Polish royal, like a Polish important person within like the ruling family or whatever. And he's like, hey, here's an interesting story, but let's go to a coffee shop and talk and say how the coffee just feels too watery. I'm like, why is this here? It's like, let's see her trying to get a sponsorship to go to America. I want to hear more of the story, not waste time in a coffee shop and then waste 3 minutes inside a godforsaken post office, Frederick Strauss, which is Frederick Smith's post office when translated into American. I don't know. It just didn't fit the tone. It just felt like it didn't work. And the music, which would be fantastic, it just didn't compliment much. It's okay, I guess, but I don't know. I mean, even in the beginning, it's like when they're on the steamship and when they're on the ship or whatever, and they're trying to tour and go. It's like, it's okay, I guess. I don't know. It's like, but when the scenes are really good, they are really gosh darn good. But I just don't believe the chemistry that Hitchcock wanted between Newman and Andrews, but it ultimately didn't happen. So they don't even really feel like like an engaged couple, because at least in Marnie it was really believable, but this just feels like a rushed job that really needed some more fine tuning. I don't know. Plus, there were several moments like when the police would come and try and abscond our protagonist, but through like sheer Deus Ex Machina or whatever, they were able to escape, and it just felt like there wasn't enough presence. There should have at least been like one gargantuan, at least a little bit of a melee, with some like weapons. I mean, really, the most interesting part takes place at a barn, where where Michael Armstrong and a farm lady are having a scuffle with this guy named Gromek, and it is actually an interesting brawl as they get him with a knife, a frying pan, before ultimately they decide to turn on some intense heat for like a heater or something like that. I don't know exactly what. So they struggle, manage to put his head in, then finally he becomes deceased from the intense heat. And this is about like, I don't know, 47 minutes in. That was the most interesting part. So I guess when it's more like the combat and the suspense is going on, it works. But for the more mellow, downplayed moments, I really didn't like this. Honestly, I think this movie, I don't want to say it's a dud. Maybe there's like if you have a firework, it's not a dud that explodes. Like it goes up like a little bit, then ultimately just doesn't produce the satisfying thing you want. So I don't know. I feel torn about this, but if you want an okay movie, you could say at least that you watched, I say at least give it a watch just for the fight in Torn Curtain.